Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about home birth and sharing both of my experiences that I had with both of my daughters born at home. One was a very positive experience and one was not so positive. So first I want to start out by telling you guys about why I chose home birth. And my first experience with birth at all was seeing my sister give birth in the hospital twice to her older kids. She has 4 now, but the two older nephews, I watched her give birth to both of them at the hospital, and it was when me and my husband first started dating, and I have to tell you, it scared me to death. I remember being in that room with her and thinking, I don't think I could ever have kids. This is terrifying. And she had an epidural with both of them, but I just remember the bright lights and how cold it was in there and just how uncomfortable and clinical it felt. And I just could never see myself giving birth like that. And I even told my husband, he was my boyfriend at the time, like how scared I was and that it just felt so foreign and uncomfortable. Fast forward, a few years later, me and my husband had been married for I think 2 years at the time, and we started talking about having kids, and I just remember thinking, I don't know if I can do it, because I just thought back to my experience of my sister's birth. Then she's pregnant again with her 3rd baby, and after having 2 in the hospital, she planned to have another hospital birth, and she had a horrible experience at one of her prenatal visits with a doctor being just very touchy and made her very uncomfortable. She called her husband crying and said, you know what, I can't do this. I want to have my baby at home. I want to have our baby at home. I don't like this situation. It's too late. They're telling me it's too late to switch doctors, and I don't want that doctor delivering my baby. So she decided to have a home birth, and luckily I got to attend that with my sister and my mom and her husband, and it was the most magical experience ever. It was dark, there was twinkle lights and worship music, and I remember thinking, wow, this is how I want to give birth. It was so peaceful. It just an all-around different experience than her first 2, and it actually made me excited to get pregnant and have a baby. Immediately after, I actually found out that I was pregnant, and I was so excited. I immediately started calling around Marietta, California, where I live, and I found a midwife who I absolutely loved, and I actually ended up using her for both my births. Her name is Ann Summers with Agape Home Birth. She's just the sweetest lady ever. She's older. She's been delivering babies since the 80s. Me and my husband both felt very confident using her to deliver our babies and do our prenatal care as well. So that's basically our journey on how we got started, why I chose it. The next step was when I was about 10 weeks, I had my first prenatal appointment with Ann. At the time, she had a little office and an ultrasound studio. So I just went there, once a month for the first few months. She checked my vitals, she weighed me, and I got to spend like 45 minutes talking to her, and she actually cared about my concerns, my nutrition, how I was working out, how I was sleeping, overall how I was feeling, how much water I was drinking. I got to ask her any question I wanted. I felt so just cared for and comfortable and taken care of. And my sister had told me she had much different experiences when she went to her prenatal visits with her first 2 pregnancies. She basically walked in, they weighed her, they asked her a few questions, and they said, okay, see you next time, see you in a month, I feel very, very grateful that I got to use a midwife for my prenatal care as well. So that was really great. I had a great experience with that. And then leading up, once it got closer, towards the end of my pregnancy, I ordered the birth kit. She sent me all the items on the list, items like a section, a birth tub liner. She provides the birth tub, all those things, because I decided to have a water birth. And I just got really excited, and she required me to take this birth class, the Bradley method birthing class with my husband, and it's like the daddy doula method. But I got to take the class, and it was so informative. I felt like I learned so much and was so prepared for the physical things that were going to happen. I was prepared for what first stage, second stage, third stage labor looked like, breastfeeding, nutrition. I felt like I learned so much. The only thing that was lacking in my whole prenatal experience was preparing mentally. I didn't understand or know how important it was to prepare mentally for a home birth or for a natural birth at all. And so I felt like I was really unprepared in that. At the time, I didn't feel that until after my birth, but once the day came and I started having some contractions. Actually, a few days before, I had called my midwife letting her know that I was having contractions. At this point, I'm fully prepared. I have all of my supplies. I'm 3 days past due. My birth tub is set up. I'm super ready. I ended up having on and off like false labor for a few days. And then finally on the night of January 20th, I started having like really intense contractions, but I let my husband sleep. I didn't want to wake him up until I knew for sure it was time. And again, I'm a first-time mom, so I had no idea what it being time was gonna look like or feel like. And so I just let the contractions start coming, and then around 3 a.m. I decided I really needed to get in the pool for some relief because it was getting like to the point where I couldn't really stand it. So I got into the water. I woke up my husband. He came out with me. We just talked and put on some music. I tried to relax. But as they picked up, I started tensing up and getting really scared because I wasn't prepared for what it was going to feel like and the pain that comes with childbirth. And when you tense, it actually hurts more. So it's something called the fear tension cycle. So when you're afraid, you tense up from the pain. So you have pain, you tense, you get afraid because you're expecting more pain, and it just repeats. So it actually gets worse when you have fear and when you tense up. So that's that fear tension cycle. I'll put it right here, a little picture of that. You can see here, fear, tension, pain. Oh yeah. So that's what I was experiencing. My midwife showed up around 5 a.m. She checked me and she said, "You're only at a 3. So I was like, okay, I can do this. It's not so bad. I can stick it out because I didn't really think it was going to get much worse. And then at 7:30, my water broke. At that point, I got so scared because the contractions got 10 times worse. And for the next 3 hours, I was just sobbing. I was trying to stick through it. But every time a contraction came, I tensed my body. I was just a mess. I was so scared. I was in so much pain. I just thought, I am gonna die today. And I couldn't even think about the fact that I was gonna meet my daughter because I just had so much fear and I was so uncomfortable and in so much pain. I didn't want to do it anymore. Around 11 a.m., I asked my midwife to check me because I thought, I started throwing up. So I thought, this is it. It's gonna be time to push soon. It's gonna be over. I get to, have this baby. But she checked me and I was only at a 5. So my labor is actually stalling because of my fear and the tension and just not, being there mentally, just being so scared and wanting to escape it. Then she advised that I go sit on the toilet, like opposite with the pillow, and I just like laid and put my head. And we turned off the lights. My husband was giving me counter pressure. I had the worst back labor. So he's giving me, he's massaging my back. He's like giving me counter pressure. And suddenly my contractions felt like they stopped, or at least they were about 10 minutes apart. I got to sleep. I got to relax. And I just thought, I need to go to the hospital because I have to get an epidural because this feels so good right now that I can't go out there back to my living room and labor like I was before. It was just so painful. I just didn't want to do it anymore. And my midwife, about an hour later, she came in and she said, "I would like to check you to see what you're at. It sounds like your labor is stalling because, my contractions slowed down so much." So she came out and I was, again, the fear started building up like, oh, these contractions are hurting a lot again. They're coming one on top of each other again. She checked me and I was at a 10. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, I had progressed 5 centimeters in only an hour and had been laboring I don't even know how many hours before that. She knew I wanted to give birth in the water, so she said, "You can go ahead and get in the water and start pushing. Let your body push. Your body will take over and you'll know what to do." So I got into that pool and my body took over and I pushed with my body with all my might. And again, that fear built up a ton and I was tensing up and I just wanted her out. So I'm screaming at the top of my lungs and just pushing, and I was just like, let this be over. By the time she started crowning, I was just so out of it that I barely remember. I just remember pain and that I was just wanted her out. I pushed as hard as I could. She finally came out. I tore enough to where I felt it. It felt like tearing fabric because I pushed my guts out, as I like to say. I just pushed as hard as I could, as fast as I could. I just wanted her out. I barely remember the moments of picking her up and looking at her. I just remember, you know, I have some pictures. I'll put them here. You can see. I'll put them right here. You can see that's the moment I first met her. I got to hold her and look at her, but I was so out of it. And my midwife said she believes I was in just shock from all the pain and like stress and all of that. Anyways, I got out. My placenta started, it didn't want to detach and come out, and I had to go sit back on the toilet again. My husband held our baby, and I had to like relax enough to let my placenta like detach. I don't know if it was relaxing or what, but then I needed a few stitches. My midwife only was able to give me one because I would not let her give me any more. I was just in a panic and I was just being super dramatic, and I just, you know, I got the stitch that she said I for sure needed. She said I really, really needed like one or two more, but I was like, no, I won't. Anyways, that ended up really prolonging my postpartum period of pain and discomfort. It hurt when I sat down because I needed more stitches than I got. Internally, I had a lot of healing that needed to be done because of how hard I push. It's called purple pushing, when you just push as hard as you can. Anyways, my daughter didn't want to latch. We struggled breastfeeding in the beginning, but we were able to, you know, overcome those difficulties, and I'll make another video explaining our breastfeeding journey. But I was able to get her to breastfeed. She's actually 2 now, 2.5 almost, and she still breastfeeds. So that's our journey. She still loves it. She eats too, but she just loves to nurse. Anyways, my postpartum period was super difficult. I was extremely sore from tensing the whole time during my labor. It was very uncomfortable. It hurt to even lift my arms to like sit up in bed. I couldn't sit to nurse. It was just so miserable. So after I was all healed up and everything, I just told my husband, I don't think I want to have any more kids. This was so difficult for me. And you know, when anyone ever asked about my birth story, I just said, you know, it was pretty rough, but you know, it was all right. I would probably do it again. I don't know. And I had a home birth. I didn't want to give home birth a bad name, you know, because I had seen so many other women, you know, on videos, and I saw my sister do it so successfully that I didn't know why my experience was so terrible, but I didn't want to discourage other women from having a positive birth experience, home birthing, just because my experience wasn't very good. Then I ended up getting pregnant again in March of 2020, and I immediately thought, I'm gonna have another home birth, because just because my first experience was bad doesn't mean my next experience will be bad, because like I said, I've seen women do it very triumphantly and have great experiences. So I thought, why can't I have that? I am gonna have that next time. I'm just gonna sheer will, I'm gonna try, you know. Anyways, as I prepared for my birth, I actually started having a lot of fear again and thinking, I don't know that I can do this, because all, you know, the flashes of my first experience kept coming back, and I thought, maybe I can't. Maybe I'm going to have the same experience. Maybe I'm going to end up in the hospital, you know, getting an epidural. Maybe I'm going to end up in the hospital just out of fainting from pain and panic, you know. Anyways, I decided when I was about 5 months pregnant that wasn't going to be my story. And I started learning about preparing mentally and spiritually, which I never thought of before. I don't know why, but what I did differently affected my entire birth experience with my second daughter. Her birth was so miraculous and so easy that I would have 100 more babies at home, because now I understand the difference and how important it is to prepare mentally and spiritually for childbirth. So her story goes a little like this. I'm 1 week overdue, kind of freaking out that I still haven't gone into labor, but I'm super confident and super excited for our birth. I have no fear. I'm ready. I'm like I'm gonna do this and it's gonna be awesome. I actually got super, super excited for it. But after a week of being overdue, I started to panic a little because I'm thinking, if I go another week, then I have to go to the hospital. And I really don't want to give birth at a hospital, especially during a pandemic. I don't want to, have to wear a mask while I'm in labor. I don't want to have intervention. I don't want to have, nurses poking, prodding me, checking me. There's a lot of things that I chose differently for this birth. For example, I didn't want to be checked at all, except for when my midwife first arrived, so I could make sure that I was progressing at all. And then I told her maybe right before I'm going to push, because I don't want to be discouraged at all. I don't want to be discouraged for being checked over and over. Other things I did differently, I read a book that absolutely changed my life and changed my whole perspective on childbirth. And that book is called Supernatural Childbirth by Mize. The best book ever. If you're pregnant and planning to have a natural birth, please download the audiobook and listen to it 1,000 times. It'll change your life. Also, I watched a lot of videos on YouTube by Built to Birth with Bridget Taylor. She's incredible. That's how I learned about the fear tension cycle. That's how I learned about relaxing, not tensing my body, and just really trusting the process, and most importantly, trusting God and trusting that He built my body exactly perfectly to have a baby. He knows that the desires of my heart to have this baby at home and for it to be successful and for us to both be healthy. Also, another huge thing was I prayed a lot over my pregnancy, and I just really felt very mentally and spiritually ready and prepared. So with all of those things I wanted to do differently, I was a little bit nervous of having to go to the hospital because I thought it's gonna throw off my mindset. Then the night before I hit 41 weeks, I went to the chiropractor and got adjusted, and I told them I have to have this baby like in the next few days because I am not going to the hospital, because legally in the state of California, a midwife cannot attend your birth if you have your baby past 42 weeks. She is legally bound to send you to the hospital by 42 weeks just for safety. And that's just the law. So that night I went home and I thought, tonight is the night. I'm gonna bounce on my ball. We co-sleep with my older daughter, so she was sound asleep in bed. My husband's asleep. I'm up bouncing on my ball, smelling my oils. I'm like, I just have this feeling, and I just prayed that, God, tonight's the night. Today is the day. You know when this baby is coming, and I am confident it's tonight. I'm going to go to sleep, get a good night's sleep, and I know I'm going to meet my baby tomorrow. So yeah, not today's the day, but like I knew it was coming like soon. Anyways, that night I went to sleep, and I woke up at 1 a.m. and my underwear were soaked because my water had broken. That was one thing that I prayed for specifically, that my water would break to signal that my labor had started, because I didn't want to have false labor. So I was like, I have to know that my labor is starting by my water breaking. So first prayer God answered. Also that it was happening that day, He answered that prayer as well. So my water broke, and I thought, this is awesome. I'm so excited. So I had no contractions yet, but I woke up my husband and let him know, and I started myself a bath, and I went and sat on my ball in the bathroom, and I just bounced on it, and he came up to me. He prayed over me very specifically that my body would function perfectly how it was created to have a baby, that I would have no fear, no tension, and that I would just be able to completely focus and be full of joy and just readiness to meet our baby. And so that's what we did. He prayed for me. I got in the water and I just waited. And finally at 2 a.m., my first contraction started. It was like nothing. All my contractions were about a minute apart, lasting a minute. So I thought, all right, I'm definitely progressing. This is real. But with each contraction, I was able to laugh through it. Like, I didn't tense my body. I just laughed, and I just thanked God for each contraction. And I said, this is amazing. This is it. I'm going to get to meet my daughter today. And even when they started getting a little bit intense, I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to meet my baby today. And I didn't fight it. I let it happen. And I just got excited with each one. but they still weren't very painful at all. They weren't like anything. I wouldn't even say they were painful. They were just a little bit like pressure, like I could feel that they were happening, but it wasn't pain like it was with my experience with my daughter. So I thought maybe I'm not even in real labor, but that doesn't make sense because my water broke. That lasted from 2 a.m. until about 9 a.m. So 7 hours of back-to-back contractions that were not painful, that I just thought, I'm in labor. This is great. I even watched TV with my husband. We played with our daughter. We had breakfast, I had coffee. I just kind of hung out. And then around 10 a.m. they started getting a little bit, they picked up a little bit. So I called my midwife. She came right away and she checked me and said, all right, you're out of 4, so you're definitely progressing. This is great. And she said, I'm going to go run a quick errand, because she had been on my birth before and she knew that it was going to be a long time. So she said, I'm going to go run a quick errand. I will be right back. And yeah, my other midwife, Alicia, she is her assistant. Her and my sister were my doulas. She's a midwife doula, and then my sister just a doula. So they were both there. My mom came. They all were just waiting in the living room. I didn't really want anybody in the room with me while I was laboring, just because I didn't want to be thrown off. I wanted to be very focused. And everyone showed up around 10. My sister-in-law, Taylor, she was my photographer. So she came and she was just waiting for me to say she could come see me and take some pictures. And I actually wanted her to film me having my daughter. And I wanted my other daughter to be present for it as well. Around like 10:30, my contractions picked up more, and I thought, all right, I'm gonna get back in the bathtub, and so I can just relax, I can focus. I was smelling essential oils. I put some on a rag and I was just holding it to my face, and I was just focusing, and it just helped me stay in the mindset of relaxation, no fear, and I was just praying, really focusing, and I was like, I got this. I can totally do this. This is no problem. Then around 11, my contractions went from totally manageable, I was breathing through them, I was praying, to, oh no, I cannot do this. And I actually got that fear built, like it went from 0 to 100 like instantly. And I thought, uh-oh. So I told my husband, I said, come here, like, come kiss me. Like, I need like endorphins flowing. Like, let's play my favorite music. We did all of that. I was like, nothing is working. I'm starting to panic a little bit. So he moved me to the toilet. Like I had sat with Juliet and I tried to sit backwards. I couldn't stand it. I was like, that's not working either. So I turned the other way and I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, if it's like, if this is actually the beginning of my labor, I don't think I can do it. Like this is really, really painful. But it had only been that way for not even 10 minutes. And I thought, oh no. What I didn't know was that I was in full-blown transition, which if you didn't know is the hardest part of labor. It's right before your baby's born. I had no idea. I thought it was my labor actually starting. So I was like, wait, this is my actual labor. So I told my husband, maybe we should go to the hospital. And he was like, no, like you got this. You got this. Are you tapping out? And I was like, I don't know, because it got so intense that I actually tensed up like twice, and then I was like, no. And I just, my friend Kelsey, she had a natural birth also, and she told me she got to this point when she was in transition that it was literally like a fork in the road. Is like panic and like feel like you can't do it and just walk away, and not walk away and nowhere for me to go, but like tap out, rush to the hospital, get an epidural, whatever, or make the solid decision to do it and just pray and focus and do it. And in that split second of thinking, am I going to go to the hospital or am I going to do this? I pictured that fork in the road that she talked about, and I thought, no, I'm doing this. And I immediately stopped tensing. And I just like sat there. I was on the toilet and I just like made my body go limp, even though I like felt like tensing and screaming. I was like, no, I just went completely limp. Again, I did not know I was in transition. And my midwife's assistant, Alicia, my midwife / doula, she snuck in and she said, hey, how are you doing? Because I think she heard me say that I was like thinking about tapping out. And I said, oh, like, I don't think I can. And then all of a sudden I went, it's so funny because it's that exact sound. It literally feels like when you're throwing up, like that like urge, like where you just like your core tenses and you just like you know. It was exactly that, because I did that and I was like, I didn't know that I was pushing, but but Alicia leaned forward and she said, "Are you pushing?" And I was like, and I did that over and over, like probably 5 times. And then I was starting to panic because I thought, I am pushing, but am I gonna have her like soon? I like kind of thought, there's no way that I'm actually having her right now. Like, my labor just started. There's no way. Like, I just started actually feeling like I'm in labor. How is this possible? And I reached down, I reached up, you know what I mean? And I felt her head and I was like, and I was sitting on the toilet and she said, "I think you should come down like off the toilet and sit on your knees." And I was like, I don't think I can. And she's like, "Okay," because I felt like frozen, like the baby's gonna come out right now, like right now. Like, this is awesome. Like, I was super excited, but I also had to focus and think, there's no way out of this. This is happening to me right now. And with my first daughter, the most painful part was her coming out. So I had a tiny inch of panic and I thought, nope, this is gonna be great. She's gonna come out, I'm not gonna tear, I'm gonna breathe, and I'm about to meet my baby. I got off the toilet onto my hands and knees and she just came out. Like, she just came out. It was the most awesome thing ever. Like, her head, right before it came out, I thought, okay, this is crowning, this is a ring of fire. And it happened, and then her head came out, and then I was on my knees and I reached down and I felt her whole head and I thought, this is so awesome. And then I screamed, "Get her out, get her out, get her out," because I was like, why is she not out yet? Anyways, then she popped out and then I just pulled her up like this, because I was on my knees. I pulled her up, I put my leg around, I picked her up, and I just sat there. I put her in my lap like this, and I had a wet towel around my neck, and I just started sobbing, and I just started saying, "Thank you, God," because I was in such a disbelief that it happened so quickly and so easily and so miraculously, that I was just so full of joy and peace and contentment. And I just looked at her and I thought, this is just the like best miracle ever. Anyways, nobody was there when that happened except for my husband and Alicia. And my midwife had walked in as she was coming out. So my husband jumped up, he ran and grabbed Juliet, my other daughter, so she could be there to see, because I wanted her originally to be there, and grabbed our photographer and grabbed, you know, everyone came in and got to see her right after. And I'm literally just sitting there sobbing, holding our baby. And I'll put that clip right here. Good job. Anyways, that's what it looked like. She was born on the floor. I had a tub, like a birth tub, but we had no time. Like, I hadn't even started filling it up or anything. So right when I like started pushing, my husband like turned it on to fill it up, but there was no time, and she was born on the bathroom floor, and I wouldn't have been able to crawl into that tub at that point anyways. It was just so fast. That was my experience. What I did differently, obviously I prepared so much spiritually and emotionally and mentally for my second labor, which I did not at all for my first labor. So my advice to you is, if you're planning to have a home birth or a natural birth, I would really prepare physically, like with the understanding of what is happening physically when you're in labor, and all the stages of labor and the importance of each stage and what's happening and all that. But I would urge you, most importantly, to prepare mentally and spiritually. Prepare your heart and prepare your mind, and go into it with peace and joy and excitement. Don't face birth with fear. Fear is the number one thing that caused my first experience to be terrible. I would not take it back and not have my daughter at home. Like, I would still go back and experience that again. My birth with my second daughter, amazing. And that's what natural birth, home birth, however you want to do it naturally, That's what natural birth is supposed to look like. It's not supposed to be painful. It's not supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be peaceful and like a little slice of heaven on earth, which is exactly what it was for me. And I'm super excited if we decide to have more kids to do that again, because I know that I can and I'm capable and I am mentally ready for it, because I know how to prepare my heart and my mind to face it. You know, you wouldn't run a marathon without preparing both physically and mentally. That's the type of endurance it takes to give birth naturally. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here today. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and go ahead and hit that notification bell so you'll get notified whenever I post a new video. And again, thank you so much for watching. Over now.